I worked for 15 years to build a quiet corner of peace. No loans, no shortcuts, no one helping me carry the weight. But the moment I finally held the keys to my own home, my family showed up, not to celebrate, but to claim it as theirs. This isn't a story about money, it's a story about control, about silence, and about what happens when the quiet one finally says, no. If you've ever been expected to give up what you earned, just to keep the peace, this story is for you. I wasn't chasing paradise, just a quiet place to rest. That morning, it felt like I'd finally found it. No noise, no roommates clanging pots at midnight, no passive-aggressive sticky notes about dishes. Just me, a chipped ceramic mug from junior year, and the hum of a fridge I didn't have to share. There weren't even curtains yet. Sunlight cut through the bare windows, landing like gold on the floorboards. It didn't just light the room, it made it feel like I belonged. The place wasn't fancy. 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, a porch big enough for a folding chair and some peace, a little patch of soil out back where maybe, just maybe, I'd try planting lavender. It was mine. No loans, no co-signers, no one's name on the deed but mine. It took me 15 years to get here, 15 years of doing everything the hard way. I delivered pizzas when my friends went to prom. I bagged groceries, cleaned movie theaters, took night classes after working doubles, coded by candlelight some nights when the power got shut off. I grinded, dollar by dollar, shift by shift, ramen, hustle, and a dozen rejections for every yes. But I did it. I bought the house outright, and for a few hours that morning it finally sank in. I made it. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Dad, 7:41 a.m. Call me when you can, it's about the house. My stomach sank. Something about the wording didn't sit right. At first I tried to brush it off. Maybe he wanted to come see it. He hadn't said much when I told him I'd closed. Neither had my mom. Just a vague, "That's good, Marin." Then they quickly shifted the conversation to Piper. Again. Piper, my little sister, 2 years younger, art school graduate, jobless, rent-free, and Instagram famous for her cottagecore vibes. She still lived at home, still waiting for life to work itself out, and somehow it always did. I stared at my mug. The warm ceramic suddenly felt heavy in my hand. Then I called him. His face filled the screen. No smile, no warmth, not even a hello. He got straight to it. Your mom and I talked it over, and we think it would make sense for Piper to have the house. I blinked. I'm sorry. What? She's struggling, Marin. She has student debt. You're doing well. You could easily buy another place. It landed slow, not like a punch, more like a pressure building in my chest. He continued. We raised you. We supported you. Now, it's time to give back to the family. I said nothing, just listened to him breathe through the phone, like he was waiting for me to argue. But I didn't. Not yet. I remembered all the years I asked for help and got nothing. While Piper cried her way into Paris for artistic clarity, I took the city bus to my coding boot camp at 6 a.m. He thought I could just hand it all over. My peace, my years, my work. For what? Because she was struggling? Because I had finally done the impossible and they hadn't touched it? The light through the window suddenly felt sharp, like it didn't belong to me anymore. Like maybe I didn't either. I stared at my phone long after the call ended. Not because I didn't understand what he said, but because I did. Every word had been clear, cold, delivered like a business proposal with a moral twist. You're doing well. Piper isn't. It would make sense if she had the house. The logic was paper thin, but the entitlement? It was thick enough to choke on. I sat on the floor, cross-legged in my empty living room. Still hadn't unpacked the books. The walls were bare. But the house had started to feel like mine, like a fresh page. Until now. He hadn't even asked. Just informed me. And that line, "We raised you. It's time to give back to the family." It echoed, like it was supposed to make sense, like it was reasonable. Give back? I hadn't asked for this house. I hadn't demanded repayment for sleepless nights or missed dances or eating cold pizza in a server apron while Piper recentered in Lisbon. But here they were, redefining love as debt, and me, suddenly in arrears. The worst part wasn't the ask, it was the expectation, like the decision had already been made, like I was just the final obstacle. I called back later that night. This time, Mom answered, her voice soft, too soft, like wrapping barbed wire in velvet. "Hi, honey," she said, like nothing was wrong. "Dad told you? We think Piper would thrive there." Thrive. She said it like it was noble, like this was some kind of gift I should be proud to give. She's really in a delicate place right now. Her anxiety's been bad, and she just needs space, stability. My breath stayed steady, but my hands clenched in my lap. "Mom," I said carefully, "I worked 15 years to get this house. It's not just a place, it's proof." Silence on the other end. Then came the pivot. "Sweetheart, we gave you everything we could. We sacrificed so much. And now we're asking you to do something, just one thing, for your sister." My voice caught. "You didn't give me this house." "No," she said quietly. "But we gave you your start. We gave you values. We supported you emotionally." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. I remembered every no, every "we're focusing on Piper's education right now." Every unanswered message when I needed help with rent or groceries or books. Support? It wasn't support when it only ever went one direction. I closed my eyes. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Because I knew it wouldn't matter. I was already the villain in their story, the selfish one, the ungrateful daughter who dared to say no. And that's exactly what Mom said next. "You're being selfish, Marin." It landed harder than I expected. Not because I believed it, but because I knew they did. To them, boundaries looked like betrayal, and standing my ground meant I'd turned my back on the people who raised me. The call ended shortly after, polite, cold, final. I stared at the walls again, still empty, still waiting. I thought I'd filled this place with peace, but all I'd done was build a battleground I didn't know I'd have to defend. Piper always needed rescuing. That was the story. The narrative that floated around the dinner table, whispered into holiday toasts, etched into the very walls of our family home. She missed deadlines. She was overwhelmed. She crashed the car they gifted her at 16. She was processing emotions, lost her scholarship. They flew her to Portugal so she could reset her creativity. Meanwhile, I was working retail until 1 a.m., riding a busted Schwinn bicycle home in Chicago snow. No rescue flights, no lifelines, just the sharp air and the sound of my own breathing. And now they wanted my house to be her reset button. "You're in cybersecurity," my dad said. "You make real money. Piper's just delicate." Delicate. Like that word alone excused everything. Like it was a passport she could flash to avoid accountability. And they bought it. They always had. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Delicate doesn't pay the mortgage," I said. "And I didn't buy this house so someone else could move in and call it healing." That's when Mom joined the call. Her voice was soft, too soft, like a lullaby, like she thought if she just stayed gentle enough, I wouldn't notice she was asking me to give everything away. "Honey, we gave you everything we had," she said. "We're just asking you to do the same." I paused. The air felt thick, like the walls had pulled closer. "You didn't give me this house," I replied. There was a pause. "No," she admitted. "But we gave you your start. We gave you values. You wouldn't be here without us." It wasn't cruel. And somehow, that made it worse. It was polished, rehearsed, like they'd practiced the script together, like they knew I'd say no, and were ready to make me feel like saying no meant I didn't love them. Then came the word. One word. "You're being selfish." It hit harder than I expected, not because I thought it was true, but because I knew they believed it. They didn't see this as theft, they saw it as balance, as if Piper had always been the deficit they needed me to cover, as if my success wasn't mine to keep, but a family asset that could be redistributed at will. I wanted to scream, to rattle off every year I went without, every time I was told, "Not right now, we're focused on Piper." But what would be the point? In their eyes, selfish wasn't taking. It was refusing to give, and I had refused. That made me the problem, the barrier, the daughter who had forgotten where she came from. Except I hadn't. I remembered everything. I remembered carrying guilt like a backpack filled with bricks, while Piper floated above responsibility like it was optional. I remembered asking for $100 to buy a textbook, and being told they had to be fair with their support. And now, the same people who denied me help when I needed it most were telling me that keeping what I'd built was a betrayal. The call ended shortly after that, not with a fight, but with that quiet, brittle kind of silence that comes when a line's been drawn. A line I didn't draw, but one I wasn't going to cross again. I didn't yell, I didn't plead, I didn't beg them to understand. I just hung up, not out of spite, but out of something colder, quieter, final. Because I knew, if I kept listening, I might never speak to them again. The next week passed in a fog. I worked, I unpacked boxes, I tried to pretend things were normal, but the air felt off, like the house knew something I didn't. Then, on Friday morning, a knock at the door. A courier, envelope in hand. He didn't say much, just confirmed my name and left. I opened it standing in the kitchen, still barefoot, still holding a coffee I hadn't touched. The paper was thick, official, cold. Plaintiffs, Russell and Diane Langford. Defendant, Maren Langford. Claim, familial investment reimbursement. Relief sought, full transfer of property, deed to Piper Langford. Assumption of remaining mortgage obligations, monetary damages for emotional harm, restitution for moral failure to uphold family duty. There was even a number, $314,000. Apparently that's what raising me cost. I stared at it for a long time, not shocked, not even angry, just confirmed. Like the thing I'd feared most had finally shown its face, and it looked exactly how I expected. I sat on the kitchen floor. The tiles felt cold through my leggings. I didn't cry, didn't call anyone, didn't scream into a pillow. I just read every word, every line, every implication. To them, I wasn't a daughter anymore. I was a line item, an account payable. And the house, the one I worked for 15 years to afford, was now their target. Because I had finally built something they hadn't touched. Because I had the audacity to do it on my own. The next morning, I went to a copy center, printed everything. Mortgage records, bank transfers, emails, text messages. Even my graduation certificate from the coding boot camp they never acknowledged. I created a folder labeled Defense, not just for court, but for myself. To remind me that none of this had been gifted. It had all been earned. Later that night, I checked Piper's Instagram. She'd posted a picture of a kitchen, sunlight through the window, white tile backsplash, brass faucet. The caption, "Can't wait to turn this space into something magical. So grateful to my family for fighting for what's right." It wasn't even my kitchen. It wasn't anyone's kitchen. I reverse image searched it, Pinterest, but the comments flooded in. "You deserve this, Queen. True healing begins with the right environment. So proud of you for speaking your truth." She knew. She knew I bought the house. Knew the down payment came entirely from savings. Knew how many nights I'd worked until 3 a.m. just to afford the down payment. But she didn't care. Because to Piper, the house wasn't mine. It was hers, by narrative. By virtue of being the one who always got rescued. And now, the rescue came wrapped in legal documents, filed not just against me, but against the life I had fought like hell to build. I set down the folder, took a breath, and said, aloud, to no one, "So this is how far they're willing to go." And then I whispered something else. "Then I'll go further." I arrived early, not because I was nervous, but because I wanted to stand on solid ground, alone, before the storm walked in. I wore a navy dress from Marshall's, simple, professional, no frills. In my hands, a folder. Not thick, not dramatic, just precise. Inside, bank records, mortgage documents, pay stubs. The deed, signed, sealed, filed. Wire transfer receipts with timestamps going back 15 years. Everything they didn't give me. The courtroom was small. Cold fluorescent lights buzzed above. The kind of place where drama didn't unfold in gasps, but in footnotes and quiet nods from the judge. Then the door opened, and in they walked. My parents, Piper, and unexpectedly, my Aunt Linda, all wearing the same white t-shirt. Bold black letters across the chest. Family above all. It was theatrical, but calculated. They wanted the optics, wanted the room to see unity, wanted me to look like the outsider. I sat straight, didn't flinch, didn't greet them. The judge called the case. The lawyer, some tired man who looked like he regretted every career choice that led him here, stood up with a prepared statement. Your Honor, the plaintiffs assert that Maren Langford would not be in her current financial position without the emotional, physical, and monetary investment provided by her family throughout her upbringing. Therefore, in light of Piper Langford's current housing insecurity and career hardship, the moral resolution is for the defendant to transfer ownership of the home. I stopped listening. Not because I didn't care, but because I already knew what came next. They weren't arguing facts, they were arguing entitlement. Then came the exhibits. Photos of me at 8, dressed as a bumblebee on Halloween, a receipt from a Happy Meal in 2003, screenshots of an old text where I'd said, "Love you guys." That one had a sticky note attached, proof of emotional bond. I looked at the judge. She didn't roll her eyes, but her silence did it for her. Then Piper stepped forward, clutching a leather-bound notebook like it held scripture. She cleared her throat dramatically. This house is more than a building, she began. It's a dream, a space for women to heal, to create, to be whole again. She launched into a vision board speech about turning the house into a wellness retreat for female creatives. The judge listened politely, then asked, "Do you currently earn income from this work?" Piper blinked, smiled. "I'm a digital soul curator." The judge paused. "Is that a job title?" Before Piper could answer, my mother chimed in from the bench. "She's in a transitional phase. She's close." It sounded rehearsed, like a play where everyone had memorized the lines, except the script never quite made sense. The judge turned to me. "Miss Langford, do you have a response?" I stood. No theatrics, no speeches. "Yes, Your Honor. I am the sole mortgage holder on that property. I paid every dollar myself. There are no co-signers, no joint accounts, no written agreements, no legal obligation, only emotional assumptions." I handed over the folder. Every document, every transfer, every hour worked is here. The judge opened it, flipped through, then silence. Not the uncomfortable kind, the kind that says, "I see." The courtroom felt heavier now, like every lie had weight, and the air itself was straining under it. I stood there, still, centered, not to perform, but to tell the truth. "Your Honor," I said quietly, "I have one more submission." She nodded. I walked up and handed her a second folder. Simple, unassuming. Inside were emails, not flashy, not weaponized, just honest. They were from my college years, late nights, library Wi-Fi, a borrowed laptop with a cracked screen, and a younger me trying to survive. Subject lines like, "Need help buying textbook," "Rent due next week, can you assist?" "Grocery money? Anything helps." Each reply was short, polite, efficient. "We're prioritizing Piper's education right now. Hope you understand." "Sorry, we can't stretch the budget. Piper needs our full support." "We'll make it up to you later. Hang in there." Hang in there. I did, for years. I hung in there through night shifts and cold apartments and finals with an empty stomach. I hung in there while Piper posted selfies from Barcelona cafes, hashtagging #healing_vibes. And now, they were trying to erase all that, to rewrite the story, to make it seem like we were equals, like this house was ever meant to be shared. The judge read in silence, page by page. Her brow didn't furrow, she didn't sigh, she just absorbed. And when she finished, she closed the folder softly, set her pen down, and leaned back in her chair. Her eyes scanned the room, not for answers, but for clarity. She saw the matching shirts, the performative grief, the photos, the Happy Meal receipts. Then she looked at me. But she didn't speak. She didn't need to. In that silence, everything was said. 5 minutes later, she delivered her ruling. This court finds no legal merit to the plaintiff's claim. Case dismissed. No drama, no theatrics, just a flat line of truth, stamped in ink, on official paper. My parents didn't speak. Piper's face fell in slow motion. Aunt Linda whispered something sharp and bitter, but even her words felt thin now, like paper in the rain. I exhaled, not triumphantly, not like I'd won anything, but like I'd finally put something down I was never meant to carry. Because this was never about the house. It was about control, narrative, power. And I had broken the story they were trying to write, with nothing but my receipts and the truth. As I stepped out of the courtroom, sunlight hit my face. I blinked into it, not like it hurt, but like I was remembering what warmth felt like. That night, I sat on my porch. Same folding chair, same chipped mug. But something had shifted. Not the world, not them, me. They came at me with guilt, stories, and symbols, but none of it could outshine the quiet proof I carried in a folder. The evidence of every no they ever gave me. The years I survived them, without them. And now? Now I had survived their lawsuit too. The silence didn't last. I didn't expect it to. People like them don't lose quietly. 2 days after the ruling, Piper posted a story on Instagram. It was a photo of a bright kitchen. Subway tile backsplash, little herb jars on the windowsill, sun pouring in from the left like a magazine spread. I recognized it. Not because it was mine, because it wasn't. It was a stock photo, pulled straight from Pinterest. But the caption? So grateful to finally call this home. My family fought for what's right. Comments poured in. You deserve peace. Proud of you for standing up. Finally, a safe space for your art. I didn't respond, didn't post a rebuttal. What would I say? The next morning, a GoFundMe appeared. Title, Help Me Reclaim My Future After My Sister Betrayed Our Family. There was a photo, same kitchen, same lie, and a story crafted like a screenplay. Marin, the cold tech executive, Piper, the fragile dreamer, parents, heartbroken, justice, denied. Then came Mom. She didn't tag me, of course. She just posted in local Facebook groups, long-winded rants about ingratitude, about family values eroding, about how some children forget who fed them. Dad? He sent a short email. Family sticks together. You're still one of us. We just want you to do what's right. Right? Apparently, truth had nothing to do with it. But something shifted. It didn't happen all at once, but like a crack spreading through porcelain. First it was Chloe, my cousin on Dad's side. She commented under Piper's GoFundMe link. Funny, Aunt Diane paid for Piper's yoga teacher certification in Bali, but told me to work harder when I asked for help with student loans. Then came Ethan, another cousin. You bought Piper a MacBook the same week you said you couldn't spare $200 for my textbooks. It snowballed. Years of quiet resentment, buried slights, moments everyone had swallowed, now rising to the surface. And then, Grandpa, Dad's father, a man who rarely said anything online. Just one sentence, under the thread. She didn't succeed because of you. She survived despite you. I read it twice, 3 times, and I broke. Not into tears, not into anger, just into breath, like I'd been holding it for years, and now someone else had finally exhaled with me. That sentence landed heavier than any court ruling, because it came from someone who'd watched the whole thing from a quiet corner, someone who finally stepped out of the shadows. People started reaching out, private messages, old friends, relatives I hadn't heard from in years. I remember what they did to you. I stayed quiet, but I saw it. You weren't wrong. For the first time, the silence worked for me, not against me. The truth had always been there. I had just been the only one holding it. Now others were lifting it too. And for the first time, I didn't feel alone in the fight. It's been 6 months. 6 months since the courtroom, since the folder, since the truth stopped knocking and finally let itself in. I haven't spoken to my parents since. They still text sometimes. Mom sends messages that read like guilt wrapped in ribbon. Your sister can't find stable housing. She's hurting, Marin. When will you come home? Dad sent one email, just 6 words. When will you forgive us? I never replied. I didn't block them. I just let the words float in and drift back out. Because I finally understood. I don't owe anyone an explanation for surviving well, not even the people who raised me. The house is quiet now, but not empty. There's a dog at my feet as I write this. Her name is Luna. She's a German Shepherd mix from the city shelter. One floppy ear, a small scar on her paw, like she's been through something too. We get along just fine. She doesn't ask questions. She doesn't expect me to explain the nights I stare at the wall a little too long. She just stays. Sometimes that's enough. A few weeks after the ruling, Grandpa started visiting on Sundays. Turns out he'd been trying to for years. He said my parents always had a reason to keep him away. Too busy, too tired, not a good time. I didn't ask for details. He didn't offer any. Now, every Sunday, he shows up with a brown paper bag full of groceries. And always a tool, a screwdriver, a wrench, a level. Figured your garage could use it. We eat simple food, talk about weather, about fixing door hinges, about things that don't require loyalty tests. Last week, he brought a photo I'd never seen. It was me, at my community college graduation. I hadn't invited anyone. I was working a double shift that day, didn't even walk across the stage. But in the photo, there he was, far in the back, hands in his pockets, watching from behind the fence. He looked at me and said, "I never missed you, Marin. I just wasn't allowed close." Then he added, his voice steady, "I'm proud of you. You didn't let them take what wasn't theirs." I didn't cry, just nodded, poured him another cup of coffee. And we sat there, watching the sun go down over the backyard. There are still nights I think about writing a letter, laying it all out. Every unpaid favor, every quiet hurt, every time I chose not to scream. But then Luna curls up by the back door. The light fades soft across the floorboards. And I remember, I don't need to tell it all. Sometimes the loudest truth is the one you never explain. The deed stays in a drawer by the window, tucked beneath a photo of younger me, the girl who begged for help and built a life when no one came. It's not just a house, it's proof that I got out, that I stayed out, and that I didn't come back for them to love me. I came back so they'd have to stop lying, and I stayed so peace could finally have a home. I didn't win by yelling, I didn't win by fighting louder, I won by standing still and letting the truth speak for itself. Sometimes surviving is enough. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is keep what's yours and walk away with grace. If you've ever been made to feel guilty for growing beyond the limits others set for you, remember this: you don't owe anyone your peace just because they gave you your name. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's done the hard work to build a life of their own, because maybe they need to hear this today.